Man on Fire is one of my favorite movies. If you've never seen it, it stars Denzel Washington. He plays this man struggling with his past, and he uses alcohol to help mask his pain and quiet the noise of his past mind, his past thoughts, just sort of quiet the noise that's going on inside of his head. We meet him, he has this fortress built around his heart, and he meets a little girl who shows him how to live again. She gets kidnapped, and Creasy is on a mission to find her. The cops, looking for answers, they go to this guy named Rayburn, played by Christopher Walken, who delivers one of the greatest lines in cinema history. He's eating, and he goes, a man can be an artist in anything, food, whatever. It depends on how good he is at it. Creasy's art is death, and he's about to paint his masterpiece. I'm Junius, host of Junius Has No Excuses. Hope you guys are enjoying the pod. Today's episode is called Broken Masterpiece. Let's get right into it. Creasy is Denzel Washington's character, and it's just a beautiful quote. I remember when I first watched this movie, I wrote it down and memorized it. It was just a beautiful quote. A man can be an artist in anything. I've always had this philosophy that everything is art. Like, I go to museums a lot, and in museums you'll see just like a blue blotch of paint, and it's hanging in the museum. Or you'll see someone who just paints a canvas purple, and it's in the museum. It's art. You'll see broken pieces of glass, and it's art. They literally have a pillar from the World Trade Center in the museum as a sculpture of art. It's crazy. Art is abstract. They have abstract art, and it's just shapes. Anything can be art. And I look at ourselves like that too, because we are broken masterpieces, and we need to be the best version of ourselves as this broken masterpiece. Around the time I watched this movie, I was struggling with identity. Thought I was a player, didn't really have a dad growing up, so I sort of took on the personalities of what the best rappers did. 12 a.m., I'll be kicking it out. And eventually, when you act like that, when you move off ego, life will humble you. And again, at the time of this movie, I was struggling with identity, so I latched on to this broken character. I really felt his pain. I really felt him. I felt the fact that he built a wall around his heart. I really related to that. And I'm struggling with this question of who am I? Who am I? Eventually, I would go on to become a journalist, a blogger, an influencer, a personality. I don't know what I was, but I identified with it. My job was who I was. So when I worked at Verizon, I was a successful phone operator. Who made a lot of money, or more money than the people who lived in my hood. When I then became a blogger, I identified it. I created a character. I became that character. I lived it, embodied it. It was everything to me. So when those things ended, I had to really ask myself, who am I? Who am I? Outside of all the superficial stuff, outside of the ego, who am I? And when you go down the road to discover who you are, you have to ask yourself, are you prepared to do the work that is necessary and to go on doing it until you have penetrated the root of who you are? Because when you ask yourself, who am I? The only thing that's certain is the I am. I am. Who are you? I am. The I am this or the I am that, that's never certain. That's never guaranteed. And when you identify with that, you'll always struggle to find out what you are in reality. Because every journey truly only begins, let me rephrase that. Every journey inside truly only begins when all other roads end. But when I say I am, there are infinite possibilities wrestling inside you to come to life. And if you accept and believe in your power to be any and everything, that's when you become a masterpiece. And here's the beauty of it. You don't need to be perfect. You can be the masterpiece as you are broken. That's actually what makes you a masterpiece, is being who God called you to be, being who God created you, being who you are. That's what makes you a masterpiece. Around the time I was like 23 and working at Verizon, my barber got kicked out of his place, and I was like, I'm never home. Just give me $125 a week and you can stay with me. That was about half my rent back then. Wow. And you can stay with me. So he would cut his first 5 heads and come sleep on my couch. And he would bring weed and he would draw and smoke weed. And he brought this picture that he drew by hand. It was a big size portrait of a little kid eating rice. And what caused him to need a place to live is that him and his wife was arguing and she ripped it. So he taped this picture back together and it sat there for days, for weeks. And then he had an epiphany. He glued rice on the rip mark of this little baby eating rice. It made the picture way more beautiful, way more interesting, and way more entertaining. And that's what we need to do, because you'll be broken for a while and then you'll heal, or you'll figure out a way to fix it, figure out a way to pick yourself up and fall back, pick yourself up again and move forward in life as a new and improved you, or just a different improved you, a different version of yourself. I say this a lot, you will die 1,000,000 times before they plant you. So remember that. Now, I remember when I was talking to Denzel Washington and Denzel said, fall down 7 times, stand up 8. That always stick with me. And that's what showing up broken is about. That is what being a broken masterpiece is all about. And I know it's hard to accept your flaws. I still struggle to accept my flaws. In the privacy of my own home, I accept them, I'm mindful of them. And being mindful is great because then you can really sit down and evaluate what life actually is, what is actually going on in life. Because we put a lot of flavor on the things that we're going through, actually. We put a whole bunch of flavor on the things we're going through. We make them better or we make them worse. I know I've experienced things with other people firsthand and then hear them talk about it. And I'm like, oh, that happened? I know I'm not the only one. But so that is a reality of our mental too. And when we get sad and when we get down and we get depressed, we need to truly understand, 1, it ain't that bad. 2, that we are the creators of it, right? We do have the power to be any and everything. And you have infinite possibilities because you are. So it's not I am this or I am that. It's just that I am. And I can be anything. I could be hurt by this thing that happened to me. And that's fine. If I want to be broken and just say, hey, I'm never moving from it, that's fine if that's what you truly want to do. And if you want to take some time and sit down, that is fine. Anything you do is fine. Everything you do is fine. That is what infinite possibilities mean. What you bring to life and what you make come to life is on how you handle and bring your broken self to life. So I want to just share with you guys 3 things that helped me show up to spaces and places as my broken masterpiece, full of my brokenness. And that is practice radical acceptance of myself. I'm a little chubby. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little more soft than I would like, but it's important to remember, regardless of what you're particularly dealing with, that when you accept yourself fully and accept how life actually is, flaws and all, that doesn't mean that you're being passive or giving up on growth. Instead, it just means you're not fighting reality so that you can focus on what you need to change. And I think in our minds, we tend to dump a lot of stuff on the actual situations rather than just realizing what the situation is for this moment and moving forward. Because regardless of what happens to you, it doesn't truly affect the future. Might make things a little bit harder. So let me say it doesn't affect the future, but it doesn't dictate the future. And the past is already done. So that's the past. The only thing that matters is now. And in this moment of now, there are infinite possibilities. That I truly believe. So I want to encourage you all to start acknowledging your imperfections without judgment. That's one of the things meditation helped me do, is just to really not judge things. So as I'm sitting down, so as you sit down in your meditation and thoughts arise, just pay attention to them. Don't push them away. And also when you meditate, don't think that your mind's supposed to go blank. No, thoughts are going to rise up. And when they rise up, notice how they make you feel. So for me, when I would think back of an old situation, my heart would start racing. I would get uncomfortable. I would start thinking and my brain would start spiraling, and I would sit down and observe how this thought made me feel, and then watch it as it passes, watch it as it leaves, watch it as my brain then calms myself down, and then I can move on with life and move on with my meditation, right? When you do that, that muscle of just letting things pass and observing it without judgment, it gets stronger. So that's one of the things that I personally do. Also, journaling helps. I have a lot in my digital journal that I go back and read. I'm like, wow, I wrote that. I was really on something. But just accept your thoughts, accept your feelings, accept how you feel without criticism. And then also really put them to what really is, and then move forward from there. Figure out what you can change. Another thing that I know helped me show up being broken is just being vulnerable. Vulnerability is power. I mentioned earlier that I'm a little softer than I like. I've also not always shown up in the best way in spaces. I've always not been the best version of myself in my interactions, in my dealings with people. Just last week I was somewhere and I just left. I didn't say goodbye to anybody. I didn't say I'll see you later. I didn't say have a good day. I just left without speaking. And immediately I said, that wasn't nice. I just left. I just literally just got up and left. Walked past people, didn't say a word, and just left. I'm better than that now. But yet I still have these flaws. In the future, I won't show up as the best version of myself. But I am working on it. I am trying to get better. I didn't mean anything by it, so I can take comfort and solace in that. So how do you accept your vulnerability? I just want to invite you guys to share your stories. This is a safe space. But if you don't feel comfortable sharing it in a message to me, you can just share it in whatever your safe space is. Let someone know exactly what you're going through. Your safe space could be your personal relationship. It could be a support group. It could be a public forum where people don't really truly know who you are. A lot of people dump on social media, as we all see, but share your vulnerability. Share it with people. Share it in a space where you feel comfortable. Vulnerability is powerful. People might not always respect it or appreciate it, but there's something about being vulnerable that will go a long way. And my last one is transform your flaws into strengths. Often we think our flaws and we look at them as weaknesses, but they could be strengths at some point in life. Like if you think about the idea of someone being sensitive, that might come in handy because it's a really powerful tool to show about empathy and understanding in others, right? So even being not the strongest person, sometimes you need a delicate touch to get things done. You know I am very blunt and a forceful person, and it's hard for me to tiptoe around sensitive areas in conversations. But there are times when being blunt and to the point matters and it works. You know what I mean? So use your weaknesses for your strengths, strengthen the weaknesses, and just really move on like that. You do those three things, that'll help you show up as your more authentic self, because you are leaning into your weaknesses as well as your strengths and using your weaknesses to your benefit. You're being vulnerable around people and you're accepting of yourself. And sometimes you got to let people meet you on your level, right? So when you show up, in a joyful, jolly mood, it forces people to then come up and be joyful and jolly with you. Don't be too jolly, because a lot of people don't like the super duper happy person. Like, why are you so happy? That's weird. Calm down. But even that, see, like, even that right there was me not showing up as my best self. Because why am I judging anybody? I'm not perfect, right? So when we do this and show up as our authentic, true selves, it's just more beneficial. We're broken masterpieces. And hell, you shouldn't get along with everyone anyway, right? So yeah, man. I mean, that's just another quick podcast. I don't want to stay too long on these. These are just sort of filler episodes until I start to get the structure, start to get video onto it. But I just want to make sure that I'm always touching base with everyone before we truly continue the pod. So yeah, that's the podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to subscribe so you can get notified when I drop new episodes. Aiming to drop them every Friday so you guys can have something to listen to on the weekend on your way home, get your mind right, and prepare you for the week ahead. So, or even to let you unwind for the week you just had. So yeah, so hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you soon. Peace.